for the interview, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Waldschmidt, who is the author of Edgy Conversations. Hey, Dan.
Hey, great to be with you.
Yeah, and maybe you can show the book on screen so everybody knows what we're
Yes,
talking
yes,
about.
yes. I've got one sitting here on my desk, Edgy Conversations. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's excellent. So this is brought to you by Pipeliner CRM and SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine. So I wanted to talk to Dan about his book, Edgy Conversations, in the context of salespeople. So Dan, maybe just give an overview of what Edgy Conversations is about, and then let's get into talking about it in relation to salespeople.
Yeah, so I wrote Edgy Conversations in the context being a sales guy. I've been a sales guy my entire life. Every single job I've ever had, maybe not true. Most of them have been in sales, selling something.
Right.
And fortunately, I've not had the $250,000 base salary that some of these guys have. It was basically, if you don't sell something, you don't eat. So I wanted to get behind the thought process of why is it that some people achieve greatness and others don't? And why is it that some people have everything going against them and they seem to be successful? And then conversely, you've got these guys who like great education, great family, great pedigree, great money, great everything, and they just they fall flat every single time. And so I thought, what is it? That set me on a 4-year journey. We spent thousands of hours. There's about 150 stories in the book, but there's about 1,100 stories overall that we went through of just people that achieve greatness. And we said, well, what are they doing? What's different? What is it? And so we came away with 4 qualities that we think define whether you want to say greatness, success, awesomeness. I mean, you fill in the kind of the adjective there, and I feel like this formula helps you. And it's 4 qualities of, one is extreme behavior, one is disciplined activity, the G is giving. You give tremendous value, and then Y is human. We spell human with a Y. I guess now with Trump as president, you can say huge, and you can now also say human. So it all works out. Little did I know, I was prescient in that in writing of this book. So
yeah, that's excellent. So let's go through the 4 of them because it's really interesting. So extreme behavior when it comes to salespeople, I mean, that could be misinterpreted. Like some people will go, well, that's one of the problems is some of them are a little too extreme. But what do you mean by extreme behavior?
So there are a couple qualities. Let's be candid.
Yeah, totally.
Most of us in sales don't work hard enough. And we talk about things like, oh, I need work-life balance. I need all this kind of stuff. But the reality is if you're going to be successful, you're going to hit your number. You're going to have to put in some work. And it sounds crazy and it sounds extreme, but you're going to have to put in lots and lots and lots of time. What's funny is there's actually studies that show that the most unhappy people are the people who work 40 to 55 or so hours a week. It's the people who either just have a 9 to 5 and that's what it is, and there's nothing else. And it's the people who have are so mission driven that they just I got to do this. I don't even care what the hours are. I got to make it happen. And I think that's what's really fascinating. That's what's awesome about this is that, look, if you're willing to put in the time, you can be successful, but make no mistakes. You're going to have to put in lots and lots and lots of time. And that doesn't mean I have to work 50 hours or 60 hours. It might be 70, 80, 90 hours.
Well, I mean, I totally agree because I've always been a big believer in, I mean, sometimes people will say, oh, well, they got lucky. And I always say, well, to be perfectly honest, the harder you work, the luckier you get. There's a correlation between the two.
Yeah, it's really about learning, right? I mean, that's another thing we learn about hard work. And we talk a little bit about here. John, if I could write, I'm working on a second book. And if I could write a whole book about work, the wonder of work, I would, but I don't know that I have enough for the entire thing. But I'm digging into this. It's interesting. There are things, that you can't do until you have enough experience. Let's take the smartest, astrophysicist in the world, Robert Goddard, who tried to invent a rocket engine to fly straight up in the air and not do this twisty thing where it blows up and all that stuff. And you look at his story. Hundreds and hundreds of attempts to get that space shuttle right. And people say, oh, well, you work smart. This is the smartest guy in his category in the world. He's already the smartest guy. So we have we make these bold statements like we'll say, well, I read 4-hour work week. Yeah, but Tim Ferriss didn't work 4 hours. He worked 400 hours to be able to say, I now have a scalable process. So there's a lot of things buzzwords we drop and this like nomenclature of like, I'm going to work smart, not hard. And then we realize like, well, why am I not happy? Why am I not satisfied? And so that's when we talk about extreme.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be extreme, but that's part of this extreme behavior that you're willing to do what other people make excuses to avoid doing. And unfortunately, in a lot of our enterprise culture, we're really good at making excuses or reasons. What we'll say is like, well, let's run it up the flagpole, let's do a trial balloon, let's see how it goes. And if the facts come back that it works, if we've got a nice fact pattern, then we're going to go after it. But the reality is, success is always a trailing indicator. It's always the very, very last thing that happens, whether it's money in your bank account, or whether it's an award, whether it's crossing the finish line. Success is always the very last thing that happens. So if you wait for success to happen and then you begin to execute, boy, oh boy, man, you're missing out on like most of possibility that could happen for you. So it's extreme for me to have to tell you as an enterprise sales worker bee that you need to try some stuff that you have no evidence, no fact pattern, no spreadsheet of data that shows you that it will be guaranteed to work. You've got to try. And that's why work is magical, because as we put in time, as we build our experience, we're able to more closely hit the center of the target. And by the way, this is not quality of work. It's quantity of work, because quantity, the raw quantity, is what leads to success. I don't think I put it in the book, but I started playing the piano at 4 or 5 years old, and I'm working on my home office today. A few rooms away, I've got a baby grand piano, and at 4 and 5 years old, you're doing do, and the kind that drives parents madness, because you're playing that scale time and time again. Now look, that is not a quality thing. It's a quantity thing. And my parents knew that. My mom knew that. She would say, do your scales and do it again and do it again and do it again. And it was a quantity thing, not a quality thing. When you're first beginning, there is no quality. Sure. There's no quality. The violin sounds scratchy. The piano notes sound clunky. There is no quality. So we have these salespeople who are mature and older, and they look like they should have quality. But because they've not put in quantity, they have nothing of which they have no foundation. So for me, as a ninth grader, as a 10th grader, as someone who was then entering into classical music competitions, I wasn't thinking about scales. My fingers were strong. I could feel the keys under my fingers. I had this depth of experience that let me go on and win competitions because I had the raw quantity. And at some point, you flip a switch, and now it's no longer about quantity; it's about quality, and you can't go right to that. Can't go right to.
And to be honest, Dan, that runs completely contrary to almost the pervasive popular culture that we live under now, where everything, I always call it the shortcut culture. It's like back in the day, if you wanted to be a singer, what did you do? You learned to sing, you sang in front of your friends, you got a gig at the local restaurant in front of 3 people. Nowadays, what do? You go to LA and you queue up to be on The Voice or whatever it is.
X Factor or something.
Sure. So I think the concept that you're talking about I totally agree with it, but it runs contrary to what people have been led to believe. And in the sales space, people are saying, oh, use this tool, use that tool, use this tool, use that tool, all shortcuts.
Yeah. And so what we've done is, look, it used to be you had to get a degree to be somebody, because you either were stuck on the farm tilling up fields, but if you got that college degree, man, you could be somebody. And then it became, well, if you get the MBA, now you can advance your way up the corporate ladder. And so what we avoided the work and the experience, went right for that top of the pyramid, what we thought was the top of the pyramid. I can avoid all the pain. I can avoid all the struggle. I can avoid all the hustle. Listen, then we give up too quickly. We give up because we haven't fought for anything. Look, when you fight for something, you don't give up. When you're Robert Goddard and 100 rockets have already blown up and you've spent millions of dollars on failure, guess what you don't do? Well, I guess I'm going to go become a farmer. No, you have fought for that. Yeah. And we have salespeople who have never fought for anything, and they go, well, this isn't for me, or my company doesn't understand me, or I need a better culture, or I need more work-life balance. It's everyone else's fault. And the reality is they haven't put enough fight, enough work, enough sweat, enough blood, enough tears into their craft. And so, I guess as Buffett says, when the tide goes out, we see, who's left in their shorts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what happens. And unfortunately, we've got a series of technology enablers who pitch their products using, again, top of the pyramid, get rich quick, kind of schmarmy tactics packaged in the right enterprise culture, right? Everything's A/B tested. Listen, you don't A/B. You know why you don't A/B test awesomeness? Because there's nothing to compare awesome to.
Right.
It is itself. Here's people talking, I'm going to A/B test. Look, in all of my experience working with companies and helping them grow by 1,000% year over year, that's my metric. If I can't help you grow by 1,000%, I don't even want to get involved.
Right.
I don't A/B test. You know why? Because when I A/B test, I might get 2% improvement, 4% improvement. I'm going to get some improvement. Make no mistake. I will get some improvement, but it's going to be single digit. I don't need single digit improvement. I need double digit or triple digit improvement. And so I'm not going to waste my time and effort doing something that gives me crap results, just barely. But it sounds sophisticated. It sounds smart. It sounds like, I'm going to A/B test this. No, you pursue awesome relentlessly, and what happens is, as you make your way towards awesome, as you move that direction, that's really what we wanted to pursue with Edgy is as you move towards awesome, what happens is you have obstacles, you have problems you need to solve, and you get better. You're not just A/B testing, you're A-Z testing, because you've got an endless number of problems that you need to improve upon. But as you move closer to the destination, the quantity of your time and effort and your passion allows you to see things and to navigate that everyone else who has no foundation, they feel stuck. And the reason why they're stuck is they haven't put in the time. Is you almost have to go back to the starting line for those people and say, let's start over. Let's start over so that you can begin again fresh and new. And so I know that doesn't sound wonderfully sexy to everyone in sales, and people who listen to this go like, screw you, dude. I did this. Listen, this is another thing to learn in sales. This is not just a marathon. This is an ultra marathon. I'm part of an ultra running community. I run these races that are 50, 100 miles. Let me tell you something. You find Jesus when you're in the middle of running a 100-mile race. It doesn't matter how tough you are, how much training you have. I've run 18,000 miles in the last few years. 18,000 miles. But when you're in the middle of a race that humbles you to your knees, you find strength, you find resolve, you find purpose that you never have had before. And I'll tell you, that's where we're missing in sales is we've got people who can execute a few steps, but when something goes wrong, they don't know what to do. They throw up their hands and they blame everyone else. And what I'm petitioning is to say, look, there's people around you, ordinary people who are kicking your ass.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they're willing to do what you're not willing to do. Honestly, ethically, but they're willing to do what you're not willing to do. And so, look, it doesn't matter what you pursue, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your relationships and your love life, your family, your community, your church, or your money. You're always going to fail. You're always going to fail because you're not committed. You're not fighting to a set of principles that allows you to pursue awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like I said, unfortunately, our culture today is sending out different messages. And I think it's refreshing to remind people that, it is at the end of the day, it's about hard work. And I always find hard work is something that you can't really teach people, right? I mean, they have to find it in themselves. You can teach people those things, but not hard work. So the second part you said, your second one is really about, so you got the hard work piece. Now you've got to get the organized piece, right? Yeah,
that's right. Fitness. I think when you think about discipline, I really think about, if you say it in one word, it's fitness, live fit. And the greatest example I could say to anyone is this. Look, in 2007 and 8, when everyone lost their homes, 0.1% of buyers who were buying homes. Very few people were buying homes. Very few people. But the opportunity to buy homes at these cut rate, bottom of the barrel pricing was available to all of us.
Right.
So why were only a few buying homes? Because these were the people who were living fit. And some people were buying homes in like going to the bank saying, I'll buy everything you have.
Mm-hmm.
Why? They had lived fit. And so this is another thing, is that we often say, I'm working towards closing this deal. I'm working towards this quarter. What we don't say is, I'm going to live a life of fitness so that no matter what comes my way, I will be ready for it. And so I think you got to live fit in your financially, because if you don't get that commission check, I mean, John, how many idiot sales moves have you seen? And the salesperson was not an idiot, but they made a bad mistake because they were so driven by I need the money now that they make really bad mistakes. So living financially fit. Mm-hmm. So you can walk away and go, look, hey, you know what? I don't need this. I'm going to walk away. Living physically fit. You can't work long hours if you're consuming 5,000 calories for lunch and you don't have any exercise. By the way, we know there's a correlation between stress mastery and physical fitness. Just walking. Sure. You don't have to go run 18,000 miles, but go walk, go meditate. I mean, right? I mean, so and emotionally, I think as well as look, sales is probably the most neurotic sport in the world.
For sure.
Imagine saying, go be the Kobe Bryant of your team, right? But I'm only going to pay you if you make the jump shot with 0 seconds on the clock. If you miss that shot, you don't get paid. You don't get anything. And oh, by the way, we might actually just let you go, right? Even though you've played the whole game and you've worked up a sweat, and you've done all the training, and you've let me coach you. If you don't make that shot, you're out. I mean, and so it's neurotic. And so where we most of us need a coach or a therapist or need to practice meditation or something like that. And by the way, if you're listening and you're doubting this, look, don't listen to me. Why is it appropriate that professional athletes do all these things? They get their rest, they drink their water, they take care of their bodies, they take care of their minds, and then you go, oh well, I don't need that stuff. Do you? This is not Glenn Ross. This is your paycheck. This is your life, right? Yeah. So, anyways.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It is interesting how people, they idolize sports stars and then they sort of go, well, I don't need a coach. I don't need any advice. I'm pretty much good. And I don't even need to practice or work on my craft.
Yes. Right? Yes. Yeah. I don't even, you look at Steph Curry and it's like he was known. He actually came to Kobe Bryant's basketball camp as a youngster. And he was known for putting in hard work. Same as Kobe shooting, we know the stories about MJ. It's funny. There's a direct correlation between all the people that we talk about as being like amazing, putting in the hard work and staying after practice and shooting the extra shots. And then when it comes to sales, we go, we're heading to a meeting. We're like, are you ready? Well, I'm just going to put something. Wait, we have a $50 million opportunity, and you're going to wing it? Even the greatest basketball player of all time wouldn't do that. He'd stay after practice and get ready and prepare. So, yeah, you're right. There is some really nuttiness in this business where if you apply it to any other line of work, even if you apply it to McDonald's. I mean, goodness, your hamburger is made more scientifically and with practice and coaching than a lot of senior salespeople, right? I mean, the way that we fry chicken at KFC is more scientific and more prepared and more practiced and more coached and more mentored than people. I got it. You wouldn't even serve fried chicken that way, and you're going to go try to pitch a multi-million-dollar deal.
Okay, so let's move on to the giving part, right?
Yeah, let me just say this quickly. Look, giving lots of value. If you look at amazing people, they give tremendous value. And frankly, a lot of salespeople don't. They trade. I'll trade your email or your email address for my pitch. It's trading. And giving is something different. Giving costs you. Giving hurts you. But giving has magnificent return on investment. Perhaps the greatest sales angle of all time is to give tremendous value. Every major company that does it, from Southwest to IKEA to Walmart, make billions and billions and billions of dollars. Here, ask yourself this question. What could I give that would be so awesome? Again, notice my choice of word, awesome. That would make you want to give me your business. What would be so breathtakingly amazing that you would say, dude, I don't even know what you sell or what you're all about, but I have to be around you. I have to be a part of what you're doing. You solved that riddle and you've answered your question about giving value. Because a lot of what we call ourselves valuable, but we wouldn't pay ourselves to do the crap that we try to say is valuable to somebody else. We wouldn't. And so to answer that question, what could you do that's so rock star amazing that someone would say, I just have to be in. I got to be around you because it's breathtakingly amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I used to, when I ran Huthwaite, I had the pleasure of doing some work with Neil Rackham, who wrote Spin Selling.
Yeah.
And he used to tell me this concept of, if you've done a really good sales call, you should, at the end of that sales call, be able to ask that person to pay you for the call, not for the product. Just write you a check for the call. And I always used to kind of go, yeah, that sounds great, Neil. But we did a call one time at a very large company where we had the CEO, we had the marketing sales team, we had everybody in the room, and we were there for 2 hours, and we uncovered a ton of issues that the company had nothing to do with us. And at the end, I said to Neil, I said, test your thesis here. And he goes, okay. And he goes, he said, CEO, would you write me a check for this sales call today? And the CEO looked at him and kind of said, I actually think I would. And so,
awesome. And
it was all about the value that was created during that, and it had nothing to do with what we were actually there to sell.
Yeah, you're dead right. That's exactly right. Is that if you think about all the tactical things we do, from opt-in funnels to drip emails to all the get rich quick sort of things, it can be a camouflage for what's actually missing, and that is value, real true value. Because when you solve that, it's not just Southwest giving you an airline ticket at perhaps a cheaper price. It's them giving you a sense of comfort, a sense of family, and a sense of fun. Right? It's no wonder that when they hire their staff, their on craft staff, one of the things they look for is their ability to be funny and valuable and empathetic. And so because that's what they look for, guess what they get?
Yeah.
All those people, not career veterans, not people who have got 10 years of experience doing this. What they look for is people who want to create magical moments. By the way, speaking of magic, what about Disney? Right? I mean, this is another business that takes our money in droves. The average person saves for 3 years to spend 3 days at Walt Disney World. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is incredible.
And you feel wonderful while you're buying a $20 coat, right? Because someone just called your daughter a princess and let you take a picture with them, or called your son a prince, right? And treated them like royalty, knowing how what kind of money and investment you're making. So that's what we're talking about with value. When you create value, and by the way, both of those, both Southwest and Disney, what are they? They're experiences. It's not just a hotel or an airline ticket. It's an experience.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think if you can create an experience, then the product or service, that's only part of the equation. But it's the experience, and that's what has people coming back, right? You don't have to worry about renewals with people who are having a great experience, right? So let's talk about the last piece, the human piece.
Yeah. So, part of being human is understanding that you've seen this before, a lot of what derails salespeople, right? A lot of what derails them has nothing to do with the sales process. It's them. It's their greatest strength is they're also their greatest weakness. And it's the human part that trips them up. I mean, how many of our sales processes get gummed up because we can't just say thank you, or we can't say, hey, I am sorry. We were intending to do this as an organization. We did something else. No excuses. Let me apologize. It's one of the most memorable examples, and I didn't put this in the book, but it's always in my head, is in the summer of 2007. I think the iPhone was just launching. And at the same time, for the first time, something happened in telecommunications that had never happened before. And that's BlackBerry had an outage. And I don't know if you remember this. I mean, we all had BlackBerry.
Yeah, sure.
We all had BlackBerries. And for 3 days, the BlackBerry mail service was down, I think in the Middle East, in Asia. It wasn't even the United States. It was international. And for the first day, it was like no one was even admitting it. It was like, oh, no. And then you tried to go to corporate again, and they were like, well, there might be something. There was no like firm confirmation. And then on day 3, you had a picture of video from the CEO, who of course no longer the CEO, and he was basically saying very tried and true, like, straight across. You have always valued BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to be the market leader. We will always have your side, blah, blah, blah. He spent the first, out of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I think it was the first minute and 45 seconds talking about how amazing BlackBerry is. The irony of which they're down. They're not working. And then towards the very end, he made some enterprise speak about configurations being, rebooted and optimizations being entertained, and you're like, so does that mean there is a problem, or does that mean there's not a problem, or what just happened? And you should have said, hey guys, CEO here. For years we have kicked ass trying to make sure we've got a great product. We screwed up. We have all hands on deck. I have not been home in 2 days because I'm that focused on fixing this for you. I will not sleep until this is done. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for believing that we will fix this and that we always have your interest at heart. Mm-hmm. Shalom. Yeah. Shalom. Yeah. Go your way.
Yeah, exactly.
And instead he didn't. Now, am I saying that outage is where BlackBerry tanked and iPhone shot up? I don't know. Probably not, right? I mean, it's hard to stand in Apple's way, but I think –
But it didn't help, that's for sure.
It didn't help. And when you have these human problems that just unnecessary obstacles created, right? Unnecessary. I mean, business is hard enough. Life is hard enough. And there's this military term about embracing the suck. Is that you when you're a warrior, you don't go, I'm a Navy SEAL. Whoa, man, so tough being a SEAL. You signed up for it, right? You signed up not just to be in the Navy, but you signed up to go to advanced sea and air training and get the shit kicked out of you. I mean, you signed up for it. And so it's this concept of we embrace it. We know you're warriors. We know we signed up for the battle. And while we don't necessarily glorify the combat and the damage that happens, this is what we do. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think there needs to be a little bit of that sense of let's raise each other up. We're all in this fight. And you might be having a bad day, but I might be having a good day. How do we work together as brothers in arms around a common goal? And by the way, this is one of the problems with this entire model. If we're not brothers in arms around a common goal, why are you here? Yeah. You're at this job because maybe it's the only job you think you can get. Well, that's a self-confidence problem. That's a life issue you need to get worked on. It doesn't mean that you need to be at the company here. And so there needs to be a little introspection to say, maybe you're not successful because this isn't even what you should be doing. Maybe you should be at 7-Eleven working behind the counter. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Maybe you should own a few 7-Elevens or something like that. Maybe, I don't know, there's 100 other things you could be doing. You're in this job and you're not performing, and you think what you should do is lock down things even tighter. And maybe not. Maybe it's this idea that, look, you're human and, maybe it's time to move on to something else. Or maybe it's time to get your head straight that this wasn't going to be easy ever. Yeah. And that no tool is going to make it easier, right? It might make it less painful to have a great tool to help you avoid some of the process that needs to happen. But this isn't meant to be easy. Conquering the world wasn't something you just said, well, I'm done with this episode on Netflix. I think I'm going to go out and conquer the world.
Yeah, I love that. I read a book recently about one of the battles in Afghanistan, right, recently, and where the guys were deployed to the worst outpost. It was the worst logistical position. It had the highest amount of enemy activity going on. And somebody had written on the wall, "It doesn't get better." And they embrace that, but they embrace that they embrace that kind of in a humorous way and go. So whatever happened, they were always expecting it to be some obstacle is going to be thrown away, something terrible is going to happen because it doesn't get better, and that became their battle cry, and they overcame so many insurmountable obstacles because they just embraced that it was going to be hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why where we started is where we're kind of looping around to end, which is this idea of work. When you're passionate about something, you've heard the quote, "You'll never work a day in your life." Mm-hmm. You will work. You will work more days in your life. And I understand it's just words, and I get the sentiment behind it. But it's also this human factor of, listen, I know it's hard. I know it's a battle I signed up for. It's a battle I want to be in. And so I'm going to put in the work, and I'm going to take the blows, and I'm going to get kicked down, but I'm going to stand up, not because I'm some superhuman person, but because I really care about where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of my work, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's I'm making money so that I can take these commission checks and put it into my, amateur rugby or something.
Yeah.
I don't care. What is it that fuels you? It doesn't have to be your job, and your job doesn't have to define you. It can just be the opportunity for you to have some revenue, some fuel, some oxygen for pursuing the rest of your dreams.
Yeah.
And so just putting this into context.
Yeah. And you don't have to love every minute of what you do. I mean, I know you probably, when you're on your 150-mile run, there's got to be points of that where you're going, oh, I really want to get to the end. I love it, but I hate this right now.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of those moments. Why did I do this? Right. It's Saturday. I could be at home with my kids. I could be enjoying the day. I could be doing anything. And why did I do this? And what a fool. And I can't believe it. And all this kind of stuff. You have these thoughts and these doubts. And then you say, it's amazing. You'll run for 24 hours so that for 4 seconds you can, put your finger up and run across the finish line.
Yeah.
And those moments that define you, teach you in every other area of your life that you can do it. And you can pursue greatness. And just like the ordinary people that I wrote about, I tell you, look, I want to be in somebody's book down the road. I'm not trying to be cocky or arrogant. I'm humbled. I'm working hard so that someday someone can say, look at that idiot. That guy made it, right? Maybe I can make it too.
Yeah, this has been fantastic, Dan. So do you want to just give the viewers some information about how they can learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, go to danwaldschmidt.com. We write a blog almost every day, digging into a lot of these same things we talked about, trying to pick you up, but also trying to be a little bit of tough love. And it's not going to be sales tactics. It's going to be really the hard-hitting things that I think derail us from being successful. And so, just Google Dan Waldschmidt. We've got podcasts and videos and all kinds of – I mean, look, if you can dream it, we're probably doing it. But we're not pitching anything. We charge really big companies lots of money for our advice and strategy and everything else we want to give away. We just want to inspire you. If you're one of those people who says, look, I want to be awesome, well, so do we. So join the party.
Yeah, well, fantastic. This was awesome, Dan. So awesome conversation. Get John Golden, Pipeliner Sales, Pipeliner CRM, and SalesPOP Sales, Online Sales Magazine, another expert interview. Again, thanks, Dan. This has been fantastic. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, you bet.